Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome. Good to see you all. So tonight we're continuing our study in the Bhakti Shastri course. We're studying the Nectar of Devotion, the summary study of the Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu. And tonight we're up to chapter 17, which is entitled Ecstatic Love. So if you have any questions or any comments as we go, then please ask. So when we look at the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu, there are three levels which are within the first section of the book, on the eastern side of the ocean. There's a discussion of sadhana bhakti, and then a discussion of bhava bhakti, and a discussion of prema bhakti. Now, sadhana bhakti is the methodology or the means to which we attain sadhya. Sadhya means perfection. And in this context, sadhana bhakti is the means to attain perfection. Now, what is perfection? Perfection is bhava bhakti, which then becomes prema bhakti very quickly, generally speaking. So that is the methodology. We practice sadhana because we're aiming for sadhya. Sadhya means perfection. So it describes in the beginning of the book that sadhana bhakti has two qualities, bhava bhakti has two qualities, prema bhakti has two qualities. Sadhana bhakti has the two qualities of kleshagni and shubhada, which means it gives good qualities and it destroys suffering, which I think we've all experienced. Bhava bhakti has two qualities, moksha lakuta krit and sadulabha, which means it's rare to attain bhava bhakti, and it makes everything else, including moksha, insignificant in our lives. Then there is prema bhakti, which has two qualities, Sri Krishna Kashani and Sandrananda Visheshatma. Sri Krishna Kashani means it controls Krishna, prema bhakti controls Krishna, and Sandrananda Visheshatma means it gives unlimited bliss. That's the potency of prema bhakti. So, in this first part of the Nectar of Devotion, the Eastern division of the book, we hear about these three topics, sadhana, bhava, and prema bhakti. So sadhana bhakti was discussed specifically from chapter 6 to 13, or actually to chapter 16, it's spoken of. And then now we're moving in chapter 17 into bhava bhakti. And then we'll hear more about bhava bhakti and then prema bhakti in the final chapter. So we're hearing about these different types of bhakti. Now, as we said, sadhana bhakti is called sadhana. Sadhana means practice. But we have to know from the very beginning of our spiritual life, what are we practicing for? We're practicing to serve Krishna. Why? So that we can serve Krishna in perfection. And what is perfection? It begins with bhava bhakti. What is bhava bhakti? Bhava bhakti means when you become conscious of or aware of your eternal relationship with Krishna. You understand who you are in the spiritual world, what your swarup is, what your siddhadeha is, what your eternal spiritual identity is in the spiritual world. That is called bhava bhakti. That is called siddha swarup, when you understand who you are in the spiritual world. So this bhava, that's what we're aiming for. And then that very quickly, generally, that very quickly becomes prema, full-fledged, full-blown love for Krishna, which is our perfection. That's what we're aiming for. So it's very important that when we begin to practice sadhana, bhakti, we understand what it is we're aiming for as devotees. What are we aiming for? We're aiming to become perfect. We're aiming to attain love for Krishna, Krishna prema. That is the goal of our sadhana, of all the practice that we do. So that's what we're aiming for. Sadhana leads to sajja. Now, these last 3 chapters of the Eastern Division will speak about bhava and prema bhakti, which is the sajja, the goal that we're aiming for. So as we study this chapter, we'll understand what it is we're aiming for in our devotional service. This chapter begins, chapter 17 begins, Srila Prabhupada's summary of Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu's 3rd wave, addressing bhava bhakti. As mentioned in chapter 2, the purpose of sadhana bhakti is to awaken bhava. Thus, Srila Prabhupada explains, in the previous chapters, the symptoms of devotional service were explained, along with instructions as to how we may execute devotional service with our present senses and gradually rise to the platform of ecstatic, of ecstasy and spontaneous love. So we're hearing in the previous chapters how to perform devotional service so that we can rise to this platform of having spontaneous love for Krishna. That's what we're aiming for. Clearly, bhava is the goal, sajja, of our devotional practice, sadhana. Prabhupada says on page 131. Within the stage of the regulative principles of devotional service, there are 2 divisions, namely executive and effective. The effective portion of devotional service is called bhava or ecstasy. So we execute devotional service, we perform sadhana, and then the goal of performing sadhana is to attain this high stage of consciousness called prema, or love for Krishna. And prema only fully manifests when we understand our bhava, our sentiment, our eternal feeling that we have towards Krishna. So it's becoming very clear what our goal is when we study these chapters. Srila Prabhupada explains that both sadhana and bhava are within the stage of the regulative principles of devotional service. The phrase regulative principles of devotional service is a translation of Cheshta Rupa, not Vaidhi Sadhana. The next paragraph will explain this. There are 2 divisions of pure devotional service. Cheshta Rupa, devotional service executed with our endeavors, and Bhava Rupa, devotional service executed with our spiritual emotions evoked on the platform of Bhava Bhakti. So now Prabhupada explains on page 131, within the stage of the regulative principles of devotional service, there are 2 divisions, namely executive and effective. So Prabhupada's explaining to us that all of our endeavors, all of the practical service that we do, it should meditation that we're trying to attain love for Krishna. That should be the meditation of the devotee, right? We practice our bhakti why so that we can attain love for Krishna. So we need to meditate like this while we're practicing. Now, on page 131, we have the definition of bhava bhakti. so we can understand what Bhava Bhakti actually is. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryamshu Samyabhak Ruchi Bish Chitta Marshnya Krid Aso Bhava Uchyate. When devotional service, this is from Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 23, verse number 5. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a ray of the sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and one is then situated in bhava, emotion. So we're hearing now about the primary characteristic of Bhava Bhakti. We have to practice devotional service eventually. We have to rise to the platform of Vishuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva means pure goodness. Now, for those who have studied Prabhupada's books carefully and who have heard lectures, we have to rise to the platform of the mode of goodness first. When you rise to the platform of the mode of goodness, that is, as Prabhupada explains, the springboard or the stepping stone to pure goodness. Right? We cannot enter, or we cannot attain the platform of pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, if we are practicing devotional service too much in the mode of passion or in the mode of ignorance. The mode of passion and the mode of ignorance are not fully conducive for bhakti. The mode of ignorance, obviously, it has qualities like procrastination, laziness, sleep, indolence, madness, illusion. So these qualities are not conducive to becoming a pure devotee. Mode of passion means that we endeavor too much for fruitive things. We're too materialistic in our consciousness. We're too concerned with trying to attain material things. And when we're in that consciousness of trying to attain material things too much, that is called the mode of passion. So we should not be in that state of consciousness, that we're trying to attain material things too much. So we want to rise above the influence of the mode of passion. Instead of being too materialistic, even in our devotional service, sometimes we're just trying to perform our devotional service to attain fame or recognition or some sort of material benefit, right? And as long as we're motivated like that, then we can't attain pure devotional service. So therefore, we have to practice devotional service in the mode of goodness, because the mode of goodness is a stepping stone to pure goodness, where you perform devotional service in a detached way, or hoituki, apratihata, without motivation, without interruption. Right? And that will lead to pure devotional service. That's what we're aiming for as devotees. So, this is the first characteristic of Bhava Bhakti, that we have to attain the platform of pure goodness in order to reach Bhava or Prema. The primary characteristic of Bhava is Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. It is the stage when Shuddha Sattva enters the devotee's heart. Shuddha Sattva is not the material mode of goodness, but the Lord's internal potency, whose function is to revive the living entity's dormant love for Krishna. A dormant seed cannot grow without being touched by the heat and light of the sun. Similarly, love of God, prema, is like a seed lying dormant in the heart of every living entity. It cannot grow without the touch of the Lord's own devotional energy, Shuddha Sattva. So we need to be touched by Shuddha Sattva. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yayata mam prapajante tams tataiva bhajamyaham. As you surrender to me, I reward you accordingly. So if we're rendering devotional service to Krishna intensely, as Rupa Goswami recommends, and if we perform devotional service with the focus, with the intense focus that we want to attain love for Krishna, and we're serving without interruption and without motivation, that will lead Krishna to reciprocate with us and to touch us with Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, pure devotional spiritual energy, Daivi Prakriti, and that will elevate us to the platform of pure goodness, in which we can then realize our eternal relationship with Krishna. When a person eagerly wants to serve the Lord, this Shuddha Sattva potency may enter his heart through the mercy of a pure devotee. When Shuddha Sattva touches the heart, prema begins to sprout. As bhava is prema in its preliminary budding stage, Srila Rupa Goswami describes it as premankur, the first sprout of prema. So it's a very beautiful point which is being mentioned here. When we have an intense desire to serve Krishna, Krishna will send us the association of pure devotees, advanced devotees, by whose association we will be touched by the Shuddha Sattva energy, by the energy of pure goodness, because they carry that energy in their heart. Very advanced devotees are on this platform. And Krishna will send those devotees to associate with us, to lift us to that platform. This is also indicated in the term prema shuryamshu, a ray of the sun of prema. Bhava is the sun ray. Prema is the sun itself. The sun and the sun rays are qualitatively non-different, but there is a distinction in quantitative intensity. Bhava is the onset of prema, as dawn is the onset of day. When the first rays of dawn appear, one can be sure that the sun will soon rise. Similarly, when one achieves the bhava, the full light of prema will manifest quickly. So that's why bhava bhakti, when we understand, actually on the platform of asakti, which is just before bhava, one begins to understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That then manifests into bhava, in which we begin to see Krishna momentarily within our consciousness, the original form of Krishna. And that bhava, that intensifies, and one becomes mad when Krishna disappears from him. He appears continuously and disappears. That drives the devotee mad. That intensifies his bhava, his attachment to Krishna, to the platform where it manifests into prema. That's why bhava is called premankura, the precursor to prema. Generally, prema will manifest very quickly, and the devotee will suddenly understand his relationship with Krishna and see Krishna and enter his pastimes on the platform of prema. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, Shuddha Sattva is composed of the Lord's Samvit and Hladini potencies. Samvit is the cognitive or knowledge-giving potency. Hladini is the devotional potency. Samvit Shakti, the Lord's own cognitive potency, descends into the heart and empowers us to perceive and know Krishna. The Lord's devotional potency, Hladini Shakti, also descends into the devotee's heart, empowering us to fully manifest blissful love of Godhead. When the divine potencies of cognition and affection, Samvit and Hladini, combine in the heart, one can begin to fully relish Krishna as the supreme object of love. This is Bhava Bhakti, the awakening of love of Godhead. So, Shuddha Sattva, it is a fusion of these two, Samvit and Hladini Shakti. Samvit means the knowledge potency. That descends in the devotee's heart because you need knowledge to understand a person. Like I can see all your names there, or I can see you on the screen. So I can say, oh, this person's here. That, so I know, I have knowledge about you. So I can identify and I can remember who you are according to the knowledge I've cultivated about you in our relationship. So similarly, Krishna, he he becomes known by the devotee when that knowledge potency descends upon the devotee, and then the devotee begins to actually realize Krishna, and he becomes manifest before the devotee. And then Hladini Shakti, which is the bliss potency, fuses with the knowledge potency, and one feels unlimited bliss by seeing Krishna. Hladini Shakti descends in reciprocation to our bhakti. Bhaktya mama vijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. Krishna says you can only understand me in truth by devotional service. So when we render devotional service very deeply to Krishna, then the Hladini Shakti will descend, infuse the devotee's consciousness, merge with the Samvit Shakti, and then the devotees, that bliss of serving Krishna will be reciprocated, and the devotee will receive unlimited bliss of uniting with Krishna. So I hope this all makes sense. I'm trying to explain it as simply as we can. The secondary characteristics of Bhava Bhakti. So the secondary characteristics are it softens the heart and gives rise to various tastes. And this is a very important point. When we have bhakti, our heart becomes soft. It's an important point to understand. The heart will become soft. And you see, devotees, when you meet devotees who are practicing nicely Krishna consciousness, they have very soft hearts. And they deeply care about others, about Krishna and other devotees, and about the non-devotees also. So we need to become like this. We need to develop this soft-hearted nature. That's the actual qualification of a bhakta, a devotee. A soft heart is one easily moved or changed by emotion. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.24 describes this. Certainly that heart is steel-framed, which in spite of chanting the holy name with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place and tears fill the eyes and hair stand on end. a very powerful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that unless we perform devotional service properly, tears will not manifest in the eyes, and the hairs will not stand on end, and we will not feel bhava or emotion for Krishna. So as long as our heart is steel framed, what makes our heart steel framed? Offenses. Right? We commit offenses to others and to Krishna. And as long as we do that, the heart remains hard, steel framed, and we do not feel, or Krishna's presence is not fully or properly manifest in our consciousness. Srila Prabhupada explains, this is page 131. In this connection, there is a statement in the Tantras that ecstasy is the first symptom of pure love for the personality of Godhead. And in that stage, one is sometimes found shedding tears or shivering. So, we should, as Gaur Govinda Swami used to always say, we need to learn to cry for Krishna. And in Bhubaneswara, which was Gaur Govinda Swami's, the temple that he was overseeing, he was the GBC for Orissa. Gaur Govinda Swami would say, I have opened a crying school here in Bhubaneswara, which is part of Purushottam Kshetra, which the other end of Purushottam Kshetra is Jagannath Puri, and Bhubaneswara is the other end. So Gaur Govinda Swami would always emphasize this point. We need to learn to cry for Krishna. This, and Prabhupada explains this in the Nectar of Devotion also, the crying cannot be artificial, and it cannot be manufactured or artificially imposed on the consciousness. It has to come naturally. If we chant the holy name of Krishna and tears do not come to our eyes from chanting, our heart is steel framed. Because that is the goal of Krishna consciousness, that tears will manifest in our heart and our eyes when we meditate upon Krishna, as it does for all of the pure devotees. There are many examples where Prabhupada was chanting Jai Radha Madhava or Parama Karuna, these different bhajans in glorification of Gaur-Nitai or Radha Krishna. And Prabhupada would become stunned sometimes, and tears would flow from his eyes like torrents of rain. This is the goal of our Krishna consciousness. We should aim for this. We should search for these emotions within our heart while we're practicing our sadhana. Right? We cannot artificially make these things come, but they should come naturally. In this quote, Srila Prabhupada first defines the primary characteristic of bhava by saying that ecstasy, bhava, is the first symptom of pure love of Godhead, prema. He then defines its secondary characteristic by saying that one's heart softens to such an extent that he is often visibly moved by emotions. In brief, the characteristic of a devotee on the platform of bhava is that he is easily moved by Krishna conscious stimulation. So when one rises to the level of bhava, his heart will become soft to such an extent that his emotions will flow in ecstasy when he's engaged in service to Krishna. There are three kinds of tastes or devotional desires that blossom when one achieves bhava. 1. Prapti abhilash, desire to achieve Krishna. 2. Anukulya abhilash, desire to please Krishna with various services. And 3, Solharda abhilash, desire to be close at heart with Krishna. So, there are these 3 kinds of tastes in our devotional service. When one gets to the platform of bhava, one will have a strong desire to achieve Krishna. Right? We should feel that mood coming, that we have a strong desire to achieve Krishna. When one gets to bhava, one becomes obsessed in his consciousness with achieving Krishna. Secondly, one desires to please Krishna with various services. So at bhava, one meditates on the particular services of his particular rasa or relationship with Krishna, and he meditates on how to serve Krishna and please Krishna with these particular services. And then finally, the desire to be close at heart with Krishna. Suhrit Saurada means Krishna becomes one's most intimate friend. So on page 131 to 132, it is explained, when bhava appears, it permeates our consciousness to such an extent that it appears to become one with the mind. Just as an iron rod placed in fire is eventually permeated by the qualities of fire, to such an extent that the rod and the fire appear to be one. This condition is called tad atmaka. Tad atmaka. When the consciousness becomes one with Krishna, one cannot think of anything else but Krishna. That is bhava bhakti. One just wants to serve Krishna in his particular relationship with Krishna. Tadatmika. Prabhupada says, bottom of page 131 into page 132, after the outward appearance of these ecstatic symptoms, they stay within the mind, and continuation of the ecstasy is called samadhi. Samadhi. Samadhi means sama. Sama means like equal. Di means fixed. It means samadhi means when you don't think of anything else anymore except Krishna. That's the goal. Just fixed on Krishna. Sandrananda Visheshatma. Impenetrable bliss is being experienced, and one cannot think of anything else but Krishna. So that is the goal of what we're aiming for in our Krishna consciousness. Bhava is relishable by nature, and it also causes one to taste and realize the Lord's sweet pastimes. Prabhupada says on page 132, this stage of appreciation becomes the cause of future exchanges of loving affairs with the Lord. So one doesn't want to focus on anything else except his relationship with Krishna. That is bhava bhakti. It means that one's so absorbed in his eternal relationship with Krishna, he just loses interest in other things in this world. So now achieving bhava is discussed. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, there are 2 ways to achieve bhava. Number 1, by ardent spiritual practice, and 2, by the special mercy of Krishna or his devotee. Now, Prabhupada says on page 132, elevation to this stage of ecstasy can be possible in 2 ways. One way is by constant association with pure devotees. The other way is by the special mercy of Krishna or by the mercy of a pure devotee of Krishna. So these are the two ways, sadhana siddhi and kripa siddhi. Sadhana siddhi means that one becomes perfect by one's sadhana. He associates with advanced devotees. He practices his sadhana in the association of advanced devotees and gradually elevates himself to the platform of pure Krishna consciousness. The other method to attain prema and bhava is one receives Krishna's mercy and the mercy of Krishna's exalted devotees. In other words, like we've been studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Lord Chaitanya sometimes would just glance at someone, he would infuse them with Krishna prema. And then they would just manifest ecstatic symptoms. Or we know the past time when Lord Chaitanya fell into the ocean at Jagannath Puri and he floated down. And he was caught in the net of one fisherman. And when the fisherman touched his body, pulled him out of the ocean, touched his body, he became infused with prema. He didn't even understand what had happened. And when the devotees, Swarup Damodar and the other devotees, when they saw the fisherman walking down the beach and he was transformed like a madman, they understood that he must have had contact with Lord Chaitanya. So just by associating with the Lord or a very advanced devotee, you can be infused with prema by their mercy. Or the other way is that we have to practice bhakti over a significant amount of time. So for us, it's probably going to be sadhana. You know, we probably won't just get mercy and just rise straight to the platform of prema, although it is possible if the Lord desires. Srila Prabhupada uses the term association with pure devotees synonymously with executing the practices of devotional service. A pure devotee has no business other than hearing and chanting about Krishna. Therefore, associating with a pure devotee automatically implies practicing devotional service. So, to associate with pure devotees means to hear and chant about Krishna in their association. This is the real, or it's the most important type of association that we can take. It is mentioned that the most important service you can render to your guru is to hear the Bhagavatam from them. Right? When we hear from our gurus, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the most important service we can render to them. Because by that, they will infuse us or uplift us by their potency, by their love for Krishna up to the spiritual platform. Prabhupada writes on page 133, it is essential, therefore, that one constantly associate with pure devotees who are engaged morning and evening in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one will get the chance to purify his heart and develop this ecstatic, pure love for Krishna. So, hearing and chanting in the association of advanced devotees, and hearing in the association of advanced devotees. This is the process of elevating our consciousness and being lifted to the platform of prema. So as much as possible, we need to seek out the association of advanced devotees and hear and chant in their association. So it describes that bhava bhakti, when achieved by sadhana, it has two divisions. One, bhava attained through vaidhi sadhana and bhava attained through raganuga sadhana. We began the last two chapters we covered last week and the week before. These were discussing raganuga sadhana bhakti. So this rag anuga sadhana bhakti, this lifts us up. These two types of bhakti lead us to prema. Vaidhi sadhana, we'll discuss that first. Narad Muni's life story from the beginning of the Bhagavatam, first canto, is an example of someone who achieved bhava by way of Vaidhi sadhana. Narada's service to the Bhakti-vedantas may be considered Vaidhi because it was motivated not by his specific attraction to Krishna, but by obligation to Shastric injunction. Serving these great souls, he was able to regularly hear Krishna Katha from their lips. By this regulated hearing, he achieved bhava. Again, it is apparent that Vaidhi Bhakti is not something of which to take lightly. We find that Vaidhi Bhakti also leads to bhava, and even the most exalted Narada Muni attained perfection through Vaidhi practice. So, Vaidhi means awe and reverence, following rules and regulations. If one meditates on the Lord in a mood of awe and reverence, he will attain Vaikuntha. Narada Muni is a Vaikuntha Bhakta. He is a devotee of Lakshmi Narayan. The example of Narada Muni confirms that bhava is a precursor to prema. Srila Prabhupada explains, this ecstatic love is prior to pure love of Krishna, because in the next verse, Narada confirms that by the gradual process of hearing from the great sages, he developed love of Godhead. So, Prabhupada explains that Narada, he gradually heard from the sages, the Bhakti-vedantas, and gradually developed love of Godhead by this practice of sadhana. So that is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti leading to bhava and to prema bhakti. To further support that we can achieve bhava by repeatedly listening to the discourses of pure devotees, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes Lord Kapiladev. Srila Prabhupada sums up the essence of this quote. So this is from page 133 of Nectar of Devotion. When a realized soul who is engaged in the service of the Lord is speaking, he has the potency to inject spiritual life within the audience. One should therefore seek the association of such pure, unalloyed devotees. And by such association and service, a neophyte devotee will certainly develop attachment, love, and devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the way that we receive bhakti. That's the way we receive ultimately bhava and prema. When we associate with advanced devotees, we hear from them and we chant in their association, that will infuse us with bhava or emotions or sentiments for Krishna. Now by Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. The quote from Padma Purana is an example of bhava attained through Raganuga sadhana. In this story, a lady named Chandrakanti saw the deity of Krishna, which aroused her desire to dance with Krishna throughout the night. Her dancing is an example of Raganuga sadhana bhakti because she desired to develop the sentiments of the Ragatmikas. In this case, the gopis of Braj. So that is the goal that we're aiming for in our bhakti. We're aiming for following in the footsteps of the Ragatmika devotees, the pure devotees, in this case, the gopis. So she was able to, because she had rag, and she was already meditating on the gopis. And when she saw the deity of Krishna, she remembered the mood of the gopis. And all night she danced in front of the deity of Krishna for his pleasure in the mood of the gopis, following in the footsteps of the gopis. And in this way, by that raganuga, following the footsteps of the Brijbasis, she was able to arouse within herself the sentiments of the gopis. In other words, it liberated her to that platform. By this raganuga sadhana, she achieved bhava, evidenced by the fact that she remained dancing all night, without wasting a moment on rest. This reluctance to waste time is a symptom of bhava, avyarta kalatvam. This will be spoken about in the next chapter. And then the other way that we can receive bhava bhakti is by kripa, by mercy. Achieving bhava by mercy alone is uncommon. Srila Prabhupada says that one who expects to achieve bhava by mercy alone is like one who expects to complete college by receiving an honorary degree. So honorary degrees only happen sometimes. You don't just get them anytime. There are 3 ways of receiving Krishna's mercy. Number 1, vachika, by a verbal blessing. 2, darshana, dana, blessing by appearing in person to the devotee. And 3, harda, by a heartfelt, unspoken blessing. Srila Prabhupada translates these to simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes. So on page 133, we have an example of vachika, a verbal blessing. O best of the Brahmanas, Narada, I wish that you may develop unalloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness. So if Krishna says, I desire that you attain unalloyed devotional service to me, just by that speech, it can manifest. You can develop love of Godhead. Secondly is darshan dana, by seeing the Lord. When the inhabitants of the Jangala province saw the personality of Godhead, Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. That's on page 134. So just by seeing him, when you see the Lord and he glances at you, you become so attracted to him that you develop bhava, or ecstatic emotion. This can happen just by seeing the deity if one's advanced enough in Krishna consciousness. The inhabitants of Jangala were not qualified to see the Lord, but out of his causeless mercy he gave them his darshan. When they glanced upon him, they became stricken with feeling, bhava, and could not look away from the Lord for a moment. And the third way to develop love for Krishna, bhava, is harda, or heartfelt blessings. Krishna or his devotee may bestow heartfelt blessings. Shuka Samhita illustrates heartfelt blessings from Krishna. While still within the womb of his mother, Shukadev Goswami achieved bhava. Since he had not yet come out of the womb to see or hear the Lord, one can surmise that he attained this perfection by the Lord's heartfelt blessings. Chapter 17 finishes with two examples of achieving bhava by heartfelt good wishes of a devotee. The first example is Prahlad Maharaj, who received Narada's good wishes while still within his mother's womb. The second example is Mrigarhi the hunter, who became an exalted devotee simply by Narada's good wishes. So if an advanced, a pure devotee just thinks about you in a favorable way, you can attain love of Godhead. Or if Krishna thinks about you in a favorable way, you can attain love of Godhead. The southern division of Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu, chapters 20 to 34 of the Nectar of Devotion, give a more detailed analysis of the transcendental symptoms of bhava. Srila Prabhupada therefore states, this ecstatic love, this is on page 134, this ecstatic love for Krishna can be divided into 5 divisions, which will be described by Srila Rupa Goswami later on. So that's it for tonight's class. Does anyone have any questions, any comments on chapter 17 of the Nectar of Devotion? Chapter 17. Yep.
I was just wondering about the executive and effective on page. What does that mean?
Prabhupada's writing, within the stage of regulative principles of devotional service, there are 2 divisions, namely executive and effective. This indicates that there are 2 subdivisions, executive and effective. So executive means execution, right? To execute. So you're practicing sadhana, like we're all practicing sadhana. That means we're executing sadhana bhakti. And by executing sadhana bhakti, what is the effect, right? The executive or the execution leads to effective or the effect. And what is the effect? Eventually you will attain bhava bhakti.
Okay, that's good.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So next week we will study chapter 18, then chapter 19 the week after, and then we will have a overview class where I'll do an overview of the 19 chapters, and then after that you'll have your exam. So we have about another 3 weeks of classes, and then your exam will be coming. So please begin to study and prepare, and then I'll do an overview class. What I speak in the overview class will be what's in the exam. I won't tell you what's in the exam, but the content will be in the overview class, because devotees are worried, naturally. Where do we study, or which part of the 19 chapters should we memorize? You should memorize all of it, but I'll make it as easy for you as I can by covering the actual topics which will be mentioned. Okay, any other points? Thank you all for coming. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Good to see you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.